This is Cat the Catster, and this is a quickie review of What If Episode 1, the normal thing. What if Captain Carter was the first Avenger? In the premise story, the What If comics. Captain Carter, the first Avenger. An alternate universe where the events of World War II and the Hydra and that happened differently, and instead of Steve Rogers taking the super serum, there's an attack, and Captain Carter ends up taking the super serum. Instead she becomes Captain Carter, Captain Britain. I think she should call her Captain Britain, but I guess people wouldn't know what that is. I think they would, though, if they're Marvel people. They know what that is. There was actually a spin-off with Captain Britain. But they call her Captain Carter, the first Avenger story, but technically she'd be... Anyway, so we have... or she fights the... So the same events as in Captain America Winter Soldier happen slightly differently. But, Rogers... being not transformed, and Bucky Barnes being rescued by Captain Britain, and they throw in a couple of barbs about the male-dominated society at the time, but it's done cleverly because and it makes sense, and we have voice actors by the actors that actually played a lot of them. And doing the video. I saw parts of some reviews of this already, but only parts of them. Other people are reviewing it. They're not as derisive or turned off by this one as they were by the He-Man cartoon. I liked the He-Man cartoon. I don't know what their problem is. This one didn't seem to anger them. So because it's Marvel's a multiverse, it's kind of what the He-Man thing was. It's a multiverse as well. Yeah. Anyway, so the multiverse here, the what if scenario, is in she goes on a mission, and then Hydra gets a hold of the Tesseract. After trapping Rogers in his Hydra Buster armor, they built an armor for him, so he can run around with armor. He's trapped, and then Hydra captures them to get the Tesseract, because they put the Tesseract in the Hydra thing. They said it looked like a Buick that had been transformed into a suit. But he's in the... And then they unleash a Cthulhu Kraken type of creature from the beyond, and they fight it, and Carter is zapped into the other dimension with the Hydra thing, the Kraken thing, and then to reemerge, spoilers, 70 years later to meet the other ones. Because each one of these stories is its own thing. It's not it's an anthology. It's not its own thing. Doesn't matter the plot of the story, so a little spoilers. That's basically the plot. Captain Carter is there's already been a Captain Carter series, but she wasn't Captain America in it. She was just Agent Carter series. And that had other issues that not that it went. It was years ago. So there were a couple of fictional adventures, unrelated to this, but the what if idea was done even in the On Location series, the fictional adventures. There were 2 what ifs in there, and I thought I would go on to that a little bit, discuss those 2, just because, sure, there are other what ifs that were not in this Marvel thing. The first what if was, what if Josh Braun lived? Josh Braun was a character, a kid from high school, when I was in high school, who died, in a car wreck, and in 1988, and in the what if scenario story, go back in time and they say, like, what happened if he lived? would he have changed the course of the Pine Hill story and become the de facto leader of everything? And sort of like when you do that kind of scenario, you have to have it end with somebody deciding not to and then go back. So it's the fantasy island. It was all dream trope turned on its head, basically saying like, okay, well, you can't do that. This one, they have the Watcher who watches over things. It's sort of like a cute like being. It's not supposed to interfere in this Marvel story. The other what if story that we did back in the Josh Braun Lives one was that 94 or something, I think it was written. So several years later, there was another one called What If Angie Tyson Ruled, and that one, it was basically a little more straightforward. And in that one, Angie Tyson, another character from my high school, becomes a tyrannical leader, gang leader, sort of like the Warriors. That one was more interesting because you could have like this sort of mirror universe Star Trek thing with a gang, the Minions becoming an actual gang, influencing the entirety of San Jose, spoofy Duke of Earl and the Warriors. That one was more fun because we get to play evil versions of ourselves now. Neither of these ended up in the location; they were rejected. But it is funny though, because I decided to mention, this other what if. I mentioned my what ifs. Needless to say, the 1990s version of Marvel did not go for either of these stories, and if they had, they probably would have done something to the effect of, "Who are these characters? You can't do this. This is your friends from high school. We can't put that in there. No one's gonna care." It's like, what? So yeah, fanfic, of my own stuff. Fanfic of my own stuff. But these were people that existed, unlike in the comic book and the Watcher watches everything. There were two what ifs. There was actually a third one that was sort of a what if called the Ronald's Lament that was done around that same time period. That was an earlier one, actually. It was before the other two. And in that one, it was the McDonald's Massacre. And that one was a spoof of my first employment job when I was 19. I hated it, so I spoofed it, basically. Made myself the hero that gets away from it. In another version, everyone dies. That's kind of grim. And then some of these stories later became, they were rejected from the Cillian saga. They would have been in the Cillian saga, but they were rejected. The on-location fictional adventure. So yeah, that's obviously dumb. Yeah. There were other versions of that. What if there wasn't really any other what ifs. There were other things that were remade. There were some dream episodes that had nothing to do with it. But no, the two main what ifs and the Josh one, the Angie one, and the most fun was the gang one, because they were obviously not a gang. So anyway, but increasingly weird and messed up. I wouldn't call the other horror story the Mall Massacre, which is kind of a spiritual sequel to that. And The College from Hell, I wouldn't call or Demons of Rockford. They weren't what ifs. It's horror stories that were rejected, that only pieces of ended up in Cillian space in the Capterra episode. Pieces, very, very minute pieces, changed considerably to PG-13 to almost PG, not even in, I don't think ultimately included. I think just the characters. Anyway, but not in Marvel. It had nothing to do with Marvel. So, anyway, that was What If and other What Ifs. That was a pilot. So yeah, it was fine. It was it wasn't too, it played by the numbers. It did its own thing, and it was okay. There'll be other What Ifs, and they'll all be different, and they'll be Marvel, not my versions that were rejected. Well, not even rejected, really. They were rejected. They weren't in Marvel at all. We weren't in. They weren't even scenarios in Champions, the role-playing game. That's cool. No. That would have been in the 90s. That would have been later, so it wouldn't have been in that. Anyway, so yeah.